OCO, free thinkers.
I make you think, yeah. I make you think, I make you think, yeah. I make you think, yeah.
In the middle of me researching this, I ran into something that I want to tell everyone. Again, there's going to be some things that I'm not going to show on screen, but I do have because of YouTube, not because of you. But again, let me mention before I go any further that this is just based off of my research and this is for educational purposes only. I'm not here to give you medical advice. Okay, go ahead and seek your own clinical judgment with your own healthcare provider. I'm not telling you not to do that. That is not what this is about. I'm just sharing information. Okay, and I know you guys understand that, but let's make sure YouTube does. Straight off the top, the cure for cancer came in 1974. 1974. Cure for cancer. Like 47 backwards, right? 1974. Now, I did say I was going to pull some things up, and I'm going to tell you, right? And I'm also going to pull some other things up. Now, this information circulated again during the beginning stages of COVID-19. Now, as that was happening, a lot of press conferences were being conducted by way of the CDC and WHO, which was Fauci, Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci was doing a lot of press conferences with Donald Trump, right? This was at the time, you know, they was trying to give Donald Trump a hard time, and Donald Trump was being overwhelmed. A lot of the press conferences, Donald Trump came out of his own mouth and told you what to use. Y'all remember this? To get rid of COVID, right? Y'all remember that, right? Now, behind that, there was a lot of physicians and scientists stepping forward, stating that Trump was right. Media, some type of way, spent it and said, no, he doesn't know. And they came out with so many stories. No, he just misspoke, blah, 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 blah. It was a it was a huge campaign to try to stop that from happening. People became very familiar with the particular word right here, okay? Now, we're gonna take this slow. I see you, chat, and I'm glad that some of y'all do know what's going on. But we're gonna take this slow because I need people to understand that they are lying to us. Ivermectin has been FDA approved, listen to me, since 1978. Look, what's very important for humans. Let me explain. Ivermectin, listen closely. Ivermectin is an anti-parasite medication that has been used in humans since the 1970s and clinically proven to be safe and effective. It is used to get rid of parasitic infections inside and outside of the body. Now, at the time when they were scaring everybody about getting what they were supposed to be getting, right? And they were trying to hurry up and come up with something. And Trump was even saying, don't worry, we're gonna get it. We're getting it. We got the greatest people with the blah, 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 blah. That's after they made him shut the hell up about what he took. And I took it and I was great. One day later, remember? Now I'm paraphrasing, but y'all remember when he was bragging about what he took and I've felt the greatest y'all remember, right? The greatest I ever felt in years. I couldn't believe it. They just did a miracle. It was a miracle drug. Right? Okay. All right, that's not it. That's not it. I'm just making sure everybody remember. Y'all can pull it up. Y'all can pull it up. I'm paraphrasing, but I'm close. I'm close. So 2022 rolled around and the FDA got mad. CNN got mad and the Fox got mad. If the news media got mad along with the FDA, not the CDC, the FDA, the Food Drug Administration. Keep in mind, the Food Drug Administration ain't a group of scientists. It's not a group of physicians. Listen. And they didn't approve foods that ain't good for us. But they got so mad that ivermectin was being looked at. They turned around and said, no. That's just for animals. They literally tweeted on August 21st, 2021, you are not a horse. You are not a cow. Seriously, y'all stop it. That is from the US FDA. Swear to God, bruh. I want to whip them, bruh. I want to rip them up so bad for lying like this, bruh. Hold on, that ain't it. A group of physicians sued them niggas and they settled it. You think Dane Calloway playing? Now, again, I got the I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit and I'm gonna tell you right now, I got the peer-reviewed studies by private physicians that they got together, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is leading some of that charge, and they know this work. And I'm gonna play a video of that. Give me a second. So the FDA settles the lawsuit over, look, ivermectin, social media posts. They did a campaign, not just social media posts. They did a but let me scroll down real quick because I want to show you what I'm talking about. As far as their wait, where is it at? There you go. That's what they tweeted. You are not a horse. You are not a cow. Seriously, y'all, stop it. They got sued for this and they had to retract it. Ivermectin has long been approved for uses in both animals and humans. Hold up. I want to show you something really quick. See how I was talking about COVID? Okay. So the FDA also will delete and not republish posts to Twitter, now X, LinkedIn, and Facebook that read, you are not a horse, you are not a cow. Seriously, y'all stop it. Also, it will delete and not republish an Instagram post reading, you are not a horse, stop it, with the ivermectin. It is not authorized for treating COVID. As well as a Twitter post that reads, hold your horses, y'all. Ivermectin may be trending, but it isn't authorized or approved to treat COVID-19. They agreed to take this down because they approved it in 1978 for humans first. And they tried to make it seem like it wasn't for him. They knew what they were doing. CNN got involved in everything. Fox got involved. All of them got involved and was like, let's campaign to get people's minds off of that. Come to find out, it does more than just get rid of that. Yeah, CNN, MSNBC, all of them. Joe Rogan came out with an interview. And so, because I see a lot of people were talking about that. Joe Rogan did an interview with Mel Gibson in 2025, and it was brought back up recently. And Mel Gibson came out and said the ivermectin cured stage 4 cancer. And guess what? Before I saw any of this, I saw the peer review evidence. Before I even knew about Joe Rogan and Mel Gibson's conversation, before I even knew that he mentioned that it cured cancer, this is already out. And this is the podcast, just in case people want to go listen to it. And that's the podcast number, and it's on YouTube. And that was last year. Yes, y'all, for humans since 1978. And that's not all. Mebendazole and febendazole. Both of them in combination with this takes out the parasite known as cancer. Each and every cancer. I'm gonna show you the studies that just recently came out, and I'm gonna show you that I'm not the only one looking at this. Basically, it's just not well known on YouTube. But they're all over Rumble, they're all over Kick, they're all over TikTok, trying to get the message out. And again, I just so happened to run across this. I'm about to show you something. And he goes over it himself. Matter of fact, let me play it. His name is Dr. Campbell, and he's out in the UK. Pay attention and listen closely.
A warm welcome to this talk. Now, today we're going to be looking at a new paper which shows very promising results for ivermectin and mebendazole being used together in the treatment of a wide variety of cancers. Now, this is the paper here. Real-world clinical outcomes of ivermectin and mebendazole in cancer patients result from a prospective observational cohort. So in other words, this was a group looking forward.
Hold up, just in case. People need to write this down. If you don't believe me, this can be pulled up. It is in PDF format. They do have it on their website. I may at least show you this part and at least show you that he's showing you this part. And I do have this one as well. This is the most recent one. Watch closely.
People joining the group and then data being collected prospectively.
And I'm going to tell you where to get everything. Meaning,
and it's written as a full paper.
If you got people in your family that need this now, again, I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physician. I'm just here to provide information for educational purposes only. So me showing you where you can get it from is for educational purposes only.
Abstract, it's not yet been subject to full peer review, but I'm bringing it to you because it's really very interesting. And the lead author is Nick Hushler, who is actually a friend of the channel. So the full paper is there. Now, let me just give you the main points of this, and you can decide if you want to watch. So that's the reference for the paper, the clinical benefit ratio. Now, the clinical benefit ratio is something used particularly in evaluating cancer treatments. And it means that there's a complete response, or there's partial response or stability of the disease. It means it's a good outcome. Anyway, the good outcomes were 84% with a combination of ivermectin and mebendazole. Mebendazole, of course, is a very similar drug to fenbendazole. It's the human form, really, mebendazole. Mebendazole and ivermectin together giving this good result of 84% in terms of clinical benefit. Based
on what I found, it has to be ivermectin 25 grams of that, and mebendazole 250 milligrams of that for at least 90 days.
So that's what this video is about. 84.4% of patients did well, which is incredible. So why isn't this being widely taken up? Well, we don't have the large-scale randomized controlled trials because they're largely done by pharmaceutical companies. Now, the paper does mention... You heard
what he said? The reason why this is... He just told you why. And look, he about to tell you how much they making. Look, is he alive right now? Yes. Yes. Dr. Campbell is still alive. He's in the UK. But I just need you guys to understand what he just said was very important.
About 84.4%.
As to the reason why this is basically not,
which is incredible,
on blast.
So why isn't this being widely taken up? Well, we don't have the large-scale randomized controlled trials because they're largely done by pharmaceutical companies. Now, the paper does mention the fact that Overall, it is estimated that annual costs of standard chemotherapies average $111,000 per year.
A money thing.
I guess that's about, what, £90,000. $111,000 per year. Now, the fact that the
my bad, y'all, I had to cut my fan on.
So much money out of this may have nothing to do with the fact that they don't conduct the clinical trials into ivermectin and mebendazole. Who knows? But they're facts given in the paper anyway. Now, let's look at some of the details now, because it really is quite an interesting study. So drug repurposing offers a pathway to identify accessible, this is available to anyone, this is egalitarian, low toxicity, low cost cancer therapies. Now, the paper says that this therapy should cost $1,000 or $2 a year, as opposed to $111,000 per year for traditional chemotherapy. I'm sure I could do it for a lot less than that, one heck of a lot less than that. These drugs are generic, they're remarkably cheap. Before Romania joined the European Union, I used to buy a lot of mebendazole and send it to friends and colleagues in Romania for treating worm infections.
That's technically what it is. It's an anti-parasite. Matter of fact, CNN said they considered it, they called it a horse dewormer. They were trying to throw everybody's attention away. Yes, it does get rid of parasites, but not only in animals, in humans as well. Now, they're not considering cancer a parasite, but it is. Because you got to think about it. How else is it being fed? It's being fed through that glucose with sugar, right? I mean, and it gets its energy that way. Damn, that sound familiar, don't it? That sound familiar, don't it? Look at how they've been doing this shit.
And at that time, okay, it's a while back, but I was paying £2.30 per 1,000 doses. That's probably the equivalent of £6 or £7, $10 per 1,000 doses. So these drugs are remarkably inexpensive, remarkably cheap, and have got the potential to, as we'll see, treat these wide variety of cancers. Now, ivermectin and mebendazole have demonstrated multiple target anti-cancer activities. They work in many different ways. I do see quite a few papers by, what do you call them, fact checkers, who say cancer is not a parasitic disease. Ivermectin, mebendazole, fenbendazole can't work. Well, this paper is aware of that. We're aware of that. They are not working by killing parasites. They have multiple other biochemical modes of action, and the details of those are coming. So we know that they work in a wide variety of ways in the cells and tissues of the body. This paper evaluates real-world patient-reported outcomes, safety and adherence to a cohort of cancer patients utilizing the combination protocol. And the combination was ivermectin 25 milligrams, mebendazole
250.
Ivermectin 25 milligrams, mebendazole 250 milligrams a day for 90 days. That was
for
this
90 days.
Protocol. We're not giving medical advice, just reporting what this.
And now, keep in mind, people have seen results quicker than that, but I'm just saying you have to take it consistently for 90 days to completely, have the full cure. Okay. And it could work in conjunction with whatever the clinic or the doctor is giving you, like if you're going through some form of chemo. And the paper gets into that. And because that's who they were running the test on, these type of patients. You about to see.
Was. The methods, so it's prospective observational cohort study, 197 cancer patients, so it's a reasonable number.
So 197 patients, this was tested on. Y'all ready? We good?
Ivermectin and mebendazole off-label, so this is not official sort of nice guideline stuff. It's off-label, what you might call compassionate prescribing through telemedicine by registered US providers. Participants received compounded oral capsules, so it was all together in one, 25 milligrams of ivermectin, 250 milligrams of mebendazole. I think that's what I said before, 250 milligrams of mebendazole. Mebendazole, as we've said, being a very similar preparation to fenbendazole.
Right.
Data were collected voluntary, standardized digital surveys at baseline and approximately 6 months follow-up. So these patients mostly followed up at the 6-month period. The initial cohort, 197 baseline characteristics, including cancer type and disease status, were assessed. And there's actually some really quite nice graphics in the paper here, where they show like prostate cancer was the most common, then breast cancer, then lung cancer, then colon cancer, liver cancer, and then all these other cancers as well, which in itself is really quite impressive.
This is where all of those patients have. This combination of mebendazole and ivermectin appears to be effective against a very wide range of cancers. Mm-hmm. And this means if you think about a third world situation, for example, where you don't have perhaps availability of specialist oncologists, junior doctors and medical assistants and senior nurses could potentially prescribe this for a wide range of cancers, because the treatment would be probably, as far as we know, very similar for a wide range of cancers, which is again very egalitarian and the sort of thing we want to promote. So various cancer types, a total of 122 patients completed, 61.9% response rate. So that's actually not too bad. Mean age 67, about half were male and half were female, so pretty well half and half. Cancer types included, I've listed them there just for convenience so you can see them in the notes. So as we've just noticed, a wide range of different cancers. Normally, of course, all these cancers would have, as I said, dramatically different treatments, whereas here it was all the same basic adjunct treatment that could potentially be given. Median duration since initial diagnosis of these patients was 1.2 years. 37.1% at the time were experienced active disease progression. So that was shown on this graphic here. So we see that at baseline we have 37.1% who actively. So the metastasis, in other words, the metastasis, and he's probably about to say it, but that just means that it has spread, throughout the body. So the 37.1% was in the middle of. Oh, it says spreading, actively spreading or progressing. Okay, I apologize. I just saw that. It was metastasizing. Metastasis going to different parts of the body, spreading all over the place to the bones, the lungs, the brain, wherever it was, the liver, wherever it was metastasizing to. Others were in a more stable situation at the time. This is when the treatment was, when the patients first enrolled on the trial. 6-month follow-up, pretty good, nearly 87% adhered to the treatment. Took the full 90 capsules of ivermectin and mebendazole prescription. Huge number. Not an intensive, difficult treatment to follow at all by any means. Clinical benefit ratio, as we've said. So some had complete response, some had a partial response, and some had the disease was stabilized. And again, the paper's very good. It shows this graphic of that. So we see that some patients here, the 32.8%, had no evidence of disease at the time. 15.6 had known regression and 36.1 were stable. Only 15.6% had progressed. And given that cancer is a progressive disease, I consider that result to be quite remarkable, really. Normally, of course, you'd expect 100% to progress because cancer is by definition a progressive disease. Clinical benefit ratios was at 84.4%. Right, so 48.4 of the cohort, strongest possible outcomes. Regression, 15.6%. No current evidence of disease, as I said, 32.8. Disease stability, 36.1. Only 15.6% of the whole cohort were progressing. And again, it was 197. Remarkably good. 87% nearly stable or improving. Now, this is very interesting indeed. I have talked to different people on this channel, Dr. Macus in Canada, for example, Gus Dalgleish in the UK, and we've talked about the dose which would be ideal for this. And basically, of course, because the trials haven't been done, we don't know. But this study, at least relatively small, but what this study showed is no significant dose-response association was observed for cancer outcomes. And the chances of that being wrong were only 9%.
So it's 91% likely that that is a correct statement. In other words, the lower doses, people on the lower doses were doing as well as people on the higher doses. Now, the very best response was from people with 2 capsules a day, but it wasn't much different. So it looks like the relatively low dose of 25 milligrams of ivermectin and 250 milligrams of mebendazole is as effective as the higher dose, at least from this study. Now, of course, people will argue with that. All I'm saying is I don't actually know the complete answer to that. Of course, no one does, because the full trials haven't been done. But that's what this study showed. It's a direct quote from the study, very interesting. No significant dose response. So I mean, normally with a dose response, it's like if you give a higher dose, you get more response. So the higher the dose, the greater the response. So, for example, if someone's drinking alcohol, the higher the dose of alcohol, the more they get drunk. That would be normal, but this isn't showing that. So the response was pretty well the same in this study, regardless of the dose, which is very interesting indeed, and should help to guide future studies. Without any clear dose response gradation for efficiency, encouraging that the lower doses may be effective. How low can we go? We don't know. It would be interesting to find out, wouldn't it? Side effects, pretty mild. There were a few mild side effects reported, mostly gastrointestinal, but nearly 94% of those affected were able to carry on with their treatment. So very well tolerated. Some adjusted the doses a bit, but basically very well tolerated. Concurrent conventional therapies. Now, what other therapies were these getting? Well, of the people taking the ivermectin and mebendazole, 27.9% were on chemotherapy as well. Radiotherapy, 21.3% were on radiotherapy as well. And 19.7% had surgery during the course of the 6 months as well. And as well as that, quite a lot were on dietary supplements, nearly half, and dietary modification, just over a third. Right, conclusion. The initial conclusion from this study. In this prospective real-world cohort, the combination of ivermectin and mebendazole was associated with high rates of self-reported clinical benefit, with nearly half of participants reporting tumour regression or no current evidence of disease, across heterogeneous populations of cancer patients. In other words, different people, different sexes, different types of cancer, all got a benefit, which is really quite remarkable, These findings provide a compelling clinical signal that there is well-tolerated, repurposed agents may offer therapeutic benefit. That's the ivermectin and mebendazole may well offer therapeutic benefit. However, as the study honestly says, observational design, reliance on self-reported outcomes and potential for selection bias, that's the people that go into the study in the first place, and uncontrolled confounding variables, these findings should be interpreted as hypothesis generating. So there is most definitely a hypothesis here. The hypothesis is that giving 25 milligrams of ivermectin and 250 milligrams of mebendazole every day for 90 days has a significant benefit to a whole range of cancers. That is.
All right. Now, I'm glad you caught that I was muted, because I was talking and I was just throwing it up on screen, and I was letting you know that I was dropping the link inside of the chat. I was throwing it up on screen, showing you where you could get it from, and dropping the link inside of the chat. It says some of y'all are trying to do it and okay, look. Yeah, I did it again. I just did it again. Push come to shove, y'all could join the 13% community server, and I'll share it again, and I'll do it again. The 13%, the link is in the chat. That's it. Discord.gg 13%. Again, you have to do your own research. You also are going to know that I'm not trying to give you medical advice. This is all for information purposes. I just want you to check things out. You understand what I'm saying? This is not medical advice. We're just providing information. This is all research-based, educational purposes only. All right. You could definitely seek your physician or your doctor, healthcare provider for that type of thing. All right.
It's easy to test. Now, of course, we're not expecting this to be done because mebendazole and ivermectin are cheap. They're inexpensive. And pharmaceutical companies are currently making an average of $111,000 per year per patient. Not that we're saying that's why they don't want to do it. They could be completely unrelated facts, of course.
Yeah, the price is going up, y'all.
Isn't it? These studies are crying out to be done. The hypothesis is clear from this and multiple studies. We could be curing, potentially, we don't know.
Keep in mind, you could...
Your wife's cancer, your husband's cancer, your mother's cancer, your father's cancer, your son's cancer, your daughter's cancer, with ivermectin and mebendazole. But the trials, the randomized large-scale double-blind control trials, are simply not being done. In my view, this is an outrage and an insult to research. But it's currently our situation, unfortunately. Validation.
Again, this is Dr. Campbell.
Observations further define optimal dosing strategies. So
he's based out of the UK.
Really not sure.
Yeah, he's in the UK.
What the best doses are at the moment, although we have seen, promisingly, as we've said, that the lower dose patients in this study with the lower
This was 2 days ago, by the way.
Mebendazole were doing as well as the patients on higher doses. Now, does this make any sense? Is there a pharmacodynamic rationale? You know, is there a mechanism by which these drugs work? Yes, absolutely, there is. Very much so, there is. Ivermectin and mebendazole are antiparasitic agents, but that's probably not how they're working in this case. As well as, so this is a plus, demonstrating highly promising anti-cancer activity.
Absolutely, Ken, I appreciate that.
Shown to exert over 14 distinct anti-cancer mechanisms across 12 cancer types. So 14 clear biochemical mechanisms have been identified via which ivermectin could be preventing cancers in 12 different cancer types. This is incredible. Working in 12 different cancer types. How is it doing it? Inhibiting cancer cell proliferation, so stopping cancer cells multiplying, reducing the likelihood of metastasis, angiogenesis, so angio is blood vessel, genesis is beginning. So for a cancer tumour to grow into a large bulky tumour, there needs to be angiogenesis. There needs to be production of new blood vessels. If there wasn't a blood supply to the cancer, it would go black and die, like tying an elastic band around your finger. It would go black and die and necrose. So it looks like ivermectin is inhibiting the growth of new blood vessels to new tumours. If there's no blood supply to the new tumour can't grow. It's very, very simple, very, very obvious. And also reducing mitochondrial function in cancer cells, the ability of the cancer cells to welcome to produce energy.
Sorry, I'm pulling up the channel. I want y'all to see these comments.
So, in other words, this drug has demonstrated very high levels of ivermectin has developed high levels of safety, demonstrate high levels of safety, used on its own and used with other chemotherapeutic agents. And I myself took 12 milligrams of ivermectin a day for 7 weeks with no side effects whatsoever. Just to try it on myself, really. But even with people taking chemotherapeutic agents as well, it's not a contraindication. So if it's potentially beneficial when people are taking chemotherapy, why not give it as well?
I agree with him. Based off of the studies that are being conducted, I feel as though since I'm in the process of my research on this itself, I feel as though I wanted to get this message out as soon as possible for anyone, that is in need of that. And again, I am going to be following up on this because I just so happened to run across this by just trying to find out what was going on with the scientists. And once I started, connecting the dots, I noticed all of them were pharmaceutical. I'm authentically researching, I can tell you that. And I have the evidence I have that one, and I have a few other ones that was conducted here in the US, and they're working in conjunction with the UK. Again, A lot of those people are being removed in the US and the UK, okay? And this is probably the main reason why, because they don't want the peer review to keep in mind. Just that alone, with them testing like the 197 with that one just here recently, that alone could open up a case study. And I need you guys to understand how they are doing this. They are purposely not trying to pay attention to what the physicians and the doctors are doing, coming together and trying to put this information out, because it's almost like you gotta get approved from the government for this. And this ain't that. These people are in this field of study to try to get things done to help the people. And meanwhile, you trying to put it behind the paywall, and you want to have control, and they want to water it down, blah, 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 add some shit in. It's a whole bunch of stuff, but I just wanted to put that information out there. And I said this live stream is not going to be long. I see it's been an hour and 15 minutes. This is good time. I'm going to just treat this like a warm up to, more things to come on this, because I'm going to be utilizing this. Because exactly. And rest well to those that we lost. Okay, and that we shouldn't have, but it's just a lot of people that went through that, and I know they did. This is a very sensitive topic, and I apologize for bringing that trauma back up to y'all, okay? That's why I was not trying to be all hyped and while touching that sensitive topic, because I know how sensitive that can be, but it's just time that people need to, let them know. They just need to know that there's other options other than what they're trying to force our people into or scare our people into. And it's been proven to work. And again, I'm not a doctor or any of that. I'm not trying to give medical advice. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm just providing information by way of my research for educational purposes only. You take this and do whatever you want to do with it. But I love you. And I mean that. So, and I know you love your family members and your friends and stuff like that. And this need to be done for everybody, because they've been putting this stuff in the water. They've been putting this stuff in our foods. We know this bullshit. And a lot of that shit is approved by the FDA as well. But all of a sudden, they approved this thing in 1978. But no, but don't take it. They was trying to, come on now. Cancer is a parasite that can be killed and cured.
OCO free thinkers.
I make you think, yeah. I make you think, I make you think, yeah. I make you